Dalam survei berdasarkan kualitas personal ini, Megawati menempati posisi ke-6. Sedangkan Prabowo Subianto yang gencar dibicarakan sebagai Capres 2014 hanya berada di urutan ke-16.
LSI merilis 18 calon presiden yang dianggap lulus dalam uji kualitas. Ketua Mahkamah Konstitusi Mahfud MD berada di urutan pertama, diikuti oleh Yusuf Kala, Dahlan Iskan, dan Sri Mulyani. Menurut LSI, 18 tokoh yang lolos uji kualitas ini disaring berdasarkan 3 indikator, yakni integritas, tingkat keterpilihan atau elektabilitas, dan tingkat penerimaan publik atau akseptabilitas.
Ya, itulah tamu pertama saya, tidak lain dan tidak bukan Menteri Keuangan Republik Indonesia, Dr. Sri Mulyani Indrawati. Mbak Ani, saya masih boleh tetap panggil Mbak Ani dong? Boleh. Ya kan Mbak ya?
Apa kabar?
How are you?
I'm fine. Gimana?
Gimana Mbak?
Please welcome the former Minister of Finance. Now Managing Director of the World Bank. Clap again, please, for Sri Mulyani.
Thank you, Tom.
Sri Mulyani Indrawati is here. She is one of the managing directors of the World Bank. She oversees operations in Latin America and the Caribbean, East Asia, and the Pacific, and the Middle East and North Africa. Prior to joining the bank in 2010, she was the finance minister of Indonesia. She was praised for efforts to implement economic reforms, tackle corruption, and increase the tax base. Indonesia is today one of the fastest growing economies in the world. I am very pleased to have her here at this table to talk not only about the World Bank, but also about emerging nations and about Indonesia. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Are you going to go back to Indonesia and run for president?
Well, that is a very frequent question.
Yes.
I am now managing director of the bank, which oversees more than 70 countries across a very dynamic region. So I think I enjoy the job now. People may have an expectation, and I feel honored that they think that I can contribute good thing to Indonesia.
Assess for me where Indonesia is today.
And on my left, first is Sri Mulyani Indrawati, a managing director at the World Bank, who joined the bank in 2010 and is now responsible for the bank's operations in Latin America, Caribbean, East Asia and Pacific, Middle East and North Africa, some busy parts of the world. Very importantly too, Ms. Indrawati was served as Indonesia's Minister of Finance prior to coming to the World Bank, a country obviously of enormous complexity and impact, and one which is very much feeling the Chinese investment trend in the world, particularly in Asia. She holds a PhD in economics from the University of Illinois and a BA in economics from the University of Indonesia. To her left is Kurt Campbell, Assistant Secretary of State of the United States.
The louder voices calling for greater political union in the Eurozone is Indrawati Mulyani. She is one of the 3 managing directors under President Robert Zoellick at the World Bank. She joins us now from St. Petersburg. Nice to have you with us.
The managing director of the World Bank Group gave an exclusive interview to Economy Report on Wednesday. We talked to her about what inclusive development means to sustaining global growth.
Sri Mulyani Indrawati, managing director of the World Bank Group, says,
if the position were decided strictly on merit, one candidate hard to ignore would be the World Bank's managing director and former Indonesian finance minister, Sri Mulyani, who has a reputation for calling a spade a spade. Sri Mulyani, welcome to the program.
My pleasure, Jim.
界银行常务副行长斯利穆尔雅尼·英德拉瓦蒂女士一行11人成功访问我校。英德拉瓦蒂女士的演讲及回答师生问题表现出的魅力令全体师生钦佩。 我校英德拉法蒂副行长对我校表现出浓厚的兴趣。优美的校园环境、良好的基础设施、友好活跃的座谈和交流气氛，给英德拉法蒂副行长一行留下了深刻的印象。
Well, delegates from the World Bank have gathered in Washington for their four-day spring meeting. Among them is the World Bank Managing Director and former Indonesian Finance Minister, Sri Mulyani Indrawati. She is the institution's highest-ranking woman and an advocate not only for economic growth in emerging markets, but also for what she calls better quality growth. She joins us now on the Global Exchange from Washington. It's great to have you on.
In peripheral Europe, notably. And of course, Russia's position on this, how it's going to participate in the EU bailout, is it going to participate altogether? And of course, the background, the changing financial environment and this debt crisis this year is the focal point of all the roundtable discussions. It's the so-called elephant in the room, whether the euro will remain the same. Let's talk more about this with Sri Mulyani Indrawati, Managing Director for the World Bank. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Pleasure.
So, what do you think should be done to boost up confidence in the euro?
Well, it's been 2 years, and I think a lot of time has been launched by the European authority. In this case, I think it's up to the level in which the conclusion is that if you want to maintain euro, that means you have to also address this issue of banking.
An example of the system working. Thank you very much. Well, listen, I think you've really sort of set out the agenda very well. I think at this point, I'd like to invite our other two panelists to come up to the stage. And we're very lucky to have Sri Mulyani, Managing Director of the World Bank and former Finance Minister of Indonesia, and Deb Henrietta, Group President of Procter & Gamble, and also the Chair of ABAC. If you could welcome them to the stage, please.
Welcome back to this conversation. My name is Moises Naim. I'm a senior associate at the Carnegie Endowment, and I'll be delighted to chair and guide the conversation this afternoon with this splendid panel that the Bertelsmann Foundation has assembled to discuss a very important theme, which is coupling or decoupling, and what is the role of fast-growing poor countries in propelling their recovery or not, and how are they connected amongst them, and how they are connected to the larger global economy. As I said, we have a splendid panel. Sri Mulyani is the former Minister of Planning of Indonesia, and now she is the Managing Director at the World Bank. Welcome.
As the developed world, we'll pay more attention to that going forward.
Interesting. Thanks, Ian. So a good conversation is the one you don't want it to end. And it is also one that has ideas that linger, and that a few weeks from now you're going to be driving or doing something else, and some ideas that we tossed around here will come back. And so we had a great conversation, but unfortunately we need to end, despite the fact that I'm sure that we wanted more of it. Please join me in thanking Sri Mulyani, sorry, Anne Kruger, Ian Bremer, and Deven Sharma.
In 2010, she joined the World Bank, which one commentator called Indonesia's loss and the world's gain.
Corruption fighter usually is a lonely job, and Vice President for the integrity under World Bank initiate this communication and networking with many of the corruption hunter. I think from the moral support, this is very important, but from the networking point of view, in which we've already established and starting this networking across the region in Latin America, in Middle East, Africa, East Asia, and South Asia, I think it will be very good to create an effective networking, because corruption, especially across border, will be very difficult to fight if there is no coordination and sharing information.
I am delighted to say that she's going to speak to us this afternoon on issues related to security, democracy, and development. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Sri Mulyani Indrawati.
Thank you, Don, for a very generous introduction. I've been invited today to speak about security, development, and democracy. As the introductory remark, you may ask, what is the Managing Director of the World Bank and former Finance Minister of Indonesia have to say about this issue? To be honest, it's quite a lot. I will try to share with you this afternoon.
Company. So let me start with Sri Mulyani Indrawati, the Managing Director of the World Bank, on access to capital, and also maybe say a few words about the work you did in Indonesia, which was truly groundbreaking.
Thank you, Secretary Clinton. It's really an honor as well as pleasant to work with you all here.
And to Sri Mulyani this morning. When I came in, it was very clear to me that something very special was going on in here by way of an anniversary.
Thank you very much. It's a very generous introduction, and I'm certainly very delighted to be here on my first official visit to the Netherlands since becoming Managing Director at the World Bank. Stressing science education and training as the #1 priority for her government.
More than 186 speakers have accepted to be with us for this 18th Conference of Montreal, and we will welcome more than 3,000 delegates.
Globalization and trade can actually provide benefit when they truly become global. So you're not discriminating the benefit of trade only with your partner, but actually it should be wider.
Sri Mulyani Indrawati es la directora gerente del Grupo del Banco Mundial y fue ministra de Finanzas de Indonesia, nombrada por la revista Forbes como una de las mujeres más poderosas del mundo. Nació el 26 de agosto de 1962. Como ministra de Finanzas de Indonesia, Sri Mulyani era conocida como de reformista difícil y se acredita en gran parte con el fortalecimiento de la economía de Indonesia, el aumento de las inversiones y de dirigir la mayor economía del sudeste asiático a través de la crisis financiera de 2007 y 2010, desarrollo de un país. Y es por esa razón que en el 2011 instó a la región a invertir más en el capital humano y favoreció un mayor enfoque del aprendizaje hacia las matemáticas. Y es por todos sus aportes que hoy la nombramos como la grandiosa del día.
Thank you very much, Tony. It's actually hard to make a speech a serious one after you have all this fun and happy faces. But I'll try. In my work, I'm always considering global economic prospect when I'm thinking about our future.
I now have the pleasure to give the floor to Ms. Sri Mulyani Indrawati, Managing Director of the World Bank, to make her remarks. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary, Secretary General, distinguished panelists and delegates. It is really great pleasure that I joined you for the opening of the third session of the Global Platform for Disaster Reduction and the World Reconstruction Conference. Never has such an event been more timely. The image of lives and community destroyed in recent catastrophes have touched us all. In Pakistan, Haiti, Japan, we have seen the many phases of disaster, the human tragedy of lost family, friends, and job, and physical devastations of home, school, and hospital. I would like to close by asking President in this case, based on the similar experience, with the benefit of hindsight, President Saakashvili in this case, what would you have done differently? I'm sure in this case it's going to be the advice for the next president or the president for other country in this case that is going to start saying that I'm sure that in many developing countries the most popular political promise of any political leader is always that I'm going to fight against corruption. So what would you do differently, and what is the advice if you give to other prime minister, president that is run and have this commitment to fight against corruption?
Решение таких задач, финансовых задач по преодолению финансовых последствий катастроф, а также использование. Это очень важно. Эта тема была активно поддержана нашими партнерами. Опыт в этой области это касается стран Австралии, Индонезии, Канады, Новой Зеландии. Реализация мер по предотвращению финансовых последствий таких катастроф.
The nature of this food price policy action toward both export ban or from the
good governance itu apa dalam bidang pekerjaan Anda?
Yaitu kalimat yang begitu populer seperti yang tadi disebutkan Wimar sesudah tumbangnya Presiden Soeharto, karena waktu itu orang menganggap bahwa Indonesia diurus dengan suatu governance, cara mengelola governance itu adalah yang tidak sesuai dengan barangkali aspirasi masyarakat. Apa sih sebetulnya yang diharapkan masyarakat? Pertama, mengelola negara itu adalah suatu entitas publik.
Ya.
Ini bukan entitas pribadi.
Ya.
Jadi kalau saya menjadi pejabat publik, saya tahu konsekuensinya pada hari pertama saya menerima tanggung jawab itu, bahwa pertama publik berharap sesuatu, yang saya pegang kewenangan maupun otoritas, maupun berbagai macam sumber daya yang begitu melimpah, itu bukan milik saya.
Ya, terakhir Bu, mungkin sebelum berangkat ke Amerika ada yang Ibu ingin sampaikan atau Ibu memberi pesan begitu kepada siapa Ibu inginkan, siapa saja atau apa saja pada masyarakat Indonesia. Saya sampaikan negeri ini negeri yang sangat luar biasa indah dan baik. Jangan pernah putus asa mencintai Indonesia. Kadang-kadang angel, susah, tapi this is our country, ini negara kita. Cintailah dan tunjukkan cinta itu tanpa ada rasa takut, tanpa ada merasa bahwa Anda tidak berarti.
Which one commentator called Indonesia's loss and the world's gain.
I said we need a collective effort based on trust and passion, and for us to have a more effective World Bank that can deliver results.